Imagine a mysterious character that gets introduced into your story. They possess great skill, incredible charm, or a terrifying level of intelligence. Every time they show up, the audience is glued to the page. But where do these legendary characters come from? That's where your backstory comes in. In this video, we'll cover how to come up with backstories that strengthen your characters and your plot, what different approaches to writing them can look like, and how to avoid the most common traps. The first question is, what does the backstory need to explain? A backstory shouldn't try to explain everything about a character. It should explain the things the audience will notice and wonder about. Specifically, the character's behavior patterns that don't make immediate sense. If your character refuses to let anyone get close to them, the backstory needs to explain why intimacy feels dangerous. If your character is obsessed with control, the backstory needs to show a moment when everything was out of control, and it cost them something they couldn't get back. If your character lies constantly, even when the truth would be easier, the backstory needs to contain a reason honesty became unsafe. The backstory is the cause. The character's present behavior is the effect. If you start with the effect and work backward, the backstory almost writes itself because you're not inventing random history. You're answering a specific question. What happened to this person that made them act like this? This is more useful than starting with the backstory first and hoping it connects to the present. Writers who build elaborate childhood histories and then try to squeeze them into the plot often end up with a backstory that feels like a separate story, rather than a foundation for the one they're actually telling. The second question is, what's the wound? Most strong backstories center around a wound, something that happened to the character that left a mark. It changed how they see the world, how they handle relationships, how they respond to pressure. The wound doesn't have to be dramatic, though it can be. It just has to be personal enough that the character couldn't walk away from it unchanged. In character arcs, this is also known as a character's ghost, a traumatic event that still haunts them and creates a lie they believe about themselves. There are a few common types of wounds that produce different kinds of characters. Loss is the most straightforward. A character who lost a parent, a friend, a home, or an entire community carries that absence with them. The loss shapes what they're afraid of losing next, and that fear drives their decisions. A character who lost their family might protect their new friends with obsessive intensity. A character who lost their home might refuse to settle anywhere permanently because attachment means vulnerability. Betrayal creates trust issues. A character who was betrayed by someone they loved, a mentor who sold them out, a friend who turned on them, a parent who chose someone else, tends to test everyone around them. They look for signs of disloyalty. They push people away before those people have a chance to leave on their own. They might sabotage good relationships because deep down, they believe the betrayal is coming eventually and they'd rather control when it happens. Failure creates characters driven by the need to prove themselves. A soldier who froze in a critical moment and watched people die because of it. An older sibling who couldn't protect a younger one. A student who was publicly humiliated by a teacher. These characters often overcompensate. They take reckless risks to prove they're not the person they were during that failure. Or they become paralyzed by caution because the last time they acted, everything went wrong. Injustice creates anger. A character who was punished for something they didn't do, or watched someone else get away with something terrible, carries a specific kind of fury. They might become obsessed with fairness to the point where it alienates everyone around them. They might become cynical and stop believing any system can deliver justice. Or they might take matters into their own hands, which makes them effective but also dangerous. Shame creates characters who hide. A secret they carry, something they did or something that happened to them, sits underneath their public personality. Everything about how they present themselves to the world is designed to keep people away from the truth. These characters are often charming, funny, or aggressively competent on the surface and fragile underneath. Stories that slowly peel back the layers and reveal the shame are some of the most emotionally effective arcs in fiction. You don't need to pick exactly one. A character can carry multiple wounds, but usually one of them is dominant, the one that drives the most visible behavior. Identify that primary wound and build outward from it. The seriousness of the wound also matters less than its personal weight. A character who watched an entire city burn might carry that trauma lightly if they had no personal connection to the city. A character whose best friend said one cruel sentence at the right moment and walked away might carry that wound for the rest of their life. A backstory about a mother who chose a new husband over her own child hits harder than a backstory about a vague war, because the audience can picture the exact moment the damage happened. Figure out the specific moment, the single scene where the wound was created. Even if you never show it on the page, knowing exactly what happened and exactly when gives the character a clarity that comes through in how you write them. The third question is, who caused the wound? The source of the wound matters because it determines who the character blames, and blame shapes behavior just as much as pain does. If the wound came from a specific person, a parent, a mentor, a former friend, the character has a target for their anger or grief. That target can become an antagonist, a ghost they're trying to escape, or a relationship they're trying to repair. The emotional stakes are personal and specific. If the wound came from a system, a government, a social structure, a religion, a military that treated them as disposable, the character's grievance is broader. They might fight the system itself, or they might have given up on fighting it and just try to survive within it. Characters wounded by systems tend to carry a different kind of bitterness than characters wounded by individuals. It's less personal and more philosophical, which can make them compelling but also harder to connect to emotionally unless you ground the systemic wound in a specific moment. If the wound was self-inflicted, the character did something they can't undo. They made a choice that hurt someone they cared about. They ran when they should have stayed. They stayed when they should have run. Self-inflicted wounds produce guilt, and guilt-driven characters are fascinating because they often punish themselves in ways the audience can see, but the character can't. They take on dangerous missions because they don't believe they deserve safety. They refuse help because they don't believe they deserve kindness. The arc for these characters often involves someone else finally confronting them with the fact that the punishment has gone on long enough. If the wound was random, an accident, a natural disaster, a disease, something with no villain behind it, the character has no one to blame. This is a different kind of pain because it has no resolution. You can't confront a hurricane. You can't get revenge on a plague. Characters with random wounds often struggle with meaning. Why did this happen? What's the point? These characters either find a way to create meaning from the randomness or collapse under the weight of trying. You can also blend these sources. A character might have been wounded by a person acting within a system, so they blame both at once and don't know which fight to pick. Or a character's self-inflicted wound might have been set up by a system that gave them an impossible choice. So the guilt is real, but so is the injustice. Layering the source of the wound creates internal conflict that doesn't resolve neatly, and that messiness is what makes characters feel real. The fourth question is, what lie did the wound create? This is the connection between backstory and character arc. The wound taught the character something about the world, and that lesson became a belief they carry into the present story. The problem is that the lesson is usually wrong, or at least incomplete. It was true in the moment of the wound, but it's been applied too broadly to situations where it no longer fits. A character who was abandoned as a child might believe, nobody stays. That belief was true once, but it drives them to push away people who would actually stay, which creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. The character believes they're right because everyone keeps leaving, not realizing they're the one forcing people out. A character who was betrayed by a mentor might believe, trust gets you killed. So they operate alone, refuse alliances, and treat every offer of help as a potential trap. This keeps them alive in dangerous situations, but also keeps them isolated, which means when they face something they can't handle alone, they have no one to call. A character who failed publicly might believe, I'm not good enough. They either stop trying entirely, or they push themselves to breaking in an attempt to disprove the belief. Neither response is healthy, and both create visible behavior the audience can track. The lie doesn't need to be stated out loud, it just needs to be visible in how the character makes decisions. When the audience can look at a character's choices and think, they're doing that because they believe X about the world, the backstory has successfully connected to the story. Sometimes the lie is partially true, and that makes it harder to break. People will hurt you if you let them isn't wrong. People do hurt each other, but it's incomplete. Some people will hurt you, others won't. A lie that has some truth in it is stickier than a lie that's completely false, because the character can always point to evidence that supports it. That's what makes the arc harder and more interesting. The character isn't just wrong, they're half right, and the half that they're getting right is the half that's keeping them trapped. The character arc is the process of that lie being challenged and eventually replaced with something more accurate. The wound created the lie. The plot tests the lie. The climax forces the character to choose between the lie and the truth. That's the structure of a character arc. The fifth question is, how much of the backstory should the audience actually see? This is where a lot of writers lose discipline. They've built a detailed backstory, and they want to show all of it. Flashbacks, dream sequences, long conversations where the character explains their past to someone. But the audience doesn't need your character's entire life. They need enough to understand why the character behaves the way they do, and they often need less than the writer thinks. One approach is the slow reveal. The backstory comes out in pieces, scattered across the story. A reaction that seems disproportionate hints at something deeper. A throwaway line about a dead sister raises questions. A physical scar gets noticed, but not explained until much later. This method respects the audience's intelligence and keeps them curious. Each piece of the backstory raises a question, and the reader sticks around because they want the full picture. Another approach is the single flashback. One scene, placed at the right moment in the story, shows the wound directly. This works best when the audience has already been watching the character's behavior for a while and has formed their own theory about what happened. The flashback confirms, complicates, or upends that theory. Timing matters. Too early and it removes the mystery. Too late and the audience has stopped caring. A third approach is to never show the backstory directly at all. The audience learns everything through present actions. The character never sits down and explains their past, but their actions, their flinches, their overreactions, their avoidances, all tell the story clearly enough that the audience assembles the backstory on their own. This is the hardest approach to pull off, but when it works, it's the most immersive because the audience feels like they're living as the character rather than being told about them. Whichever method you use, the key rule is the same. The backstory should create questions before it provides answers. If the audience already understands everything about a character's history before the halfway point, there's nothing left to discover. And discovery is a huge part of what keeps people engaged with a character. Also, pay attention to how other characters react to the backstory as well. If a character reveals something painful, and every other character immediately responds with perfect empathy and understanding, the moment loses its edge. Real people react awkwardly to painful information. They don't know what to say. They say the wrong thing. They get uncomfortable. They change the subject. Some of them pull away because they don't want to deal with someone else's pain. Having other characters respond imperfectly makes the reveal feel earned and keeps the scene from becoming a therapy session. Also, be careful with backstory as justification for evil acts. Unless your character is literally a villain. A tragic past explains a character's behavior. It doesn't excuse it. If a character treats people badly because they were hurt in the past, the audience should understand why they do it, while also recognizing that it's still wrong. The backstory creates sympathy, not immunity. Characters who use their past as a shield against accountability stop being characters and start being victims. The writer is asking the audience to feel sorry for. That gets exhausting fast. One more thing. The backstory should ideally connect to the present conflict. The wound from the past and the challenge in the present should be connected. If the character was abandoned as a child, the present story could put them in a situation where someone they care about might leave again, and they have to choose whether to repeat their old pattern or try something different. If the character failed to save someone in the past, the present story could give them another chance to save someone, with higher stakes and less certainty. This means the present conflict should touch on the same pains the backstory created. That's what gives the character's journey emotional weight. The audience can see that this specific challenge matters to this person more than it would matter to anyone else, because it connects to the thing they've been carrying since before the story started. When the backstory and the present conflict are connected, the character feels like the person whose history is the reason they're in this story at all. One test you can run on your own backstory is this. If you remove the backstory entirely, would the character still make the same choices in the present story? If yes, the backstory is decoration. It exists, but it doesn't drive anything. Go back and find where the backstory should be influencing decisions and make sure it actually is. The best backstories power everything a character does in the story you're actually telling. If this video helped you, hit the like button and leave a comment below. Also, if you want to get started writing your first one-shot manga, head over to mangascript.com to download the one-shot guide. It's a page-by-page breakdown of 3 high-quality manga one-shots, and it makes it 10 times easier to write your own script. And don't forget to join our Discord community. The link is in the description. It's a great place to share your work and connect with fellow creators. Thanks for watching.